So, Jurassic World Rebirth is now officially the third movie I've seen in the series, which might come as a complete shock because it's a movie franchise that's been going on for the past 30 plus years. But I just never really cared that much about dinosaurs. So, the whole series wasn't really for me. And going into this movie, the only other two Jurassic movies I've seen, the first Jurassic movie I saw was Jurassic World Dominion, which is probably the worst rated one of all the six past ones. And then the second Jurassic movie that I saw was Jurassic World 1, which, yeah, might be really confusing why I'd watch 6 and then 4, but that's just what I did because I didn't really care about the series. I was just watching it with someone. So, yeah, that's kind of how I went about it. And now going into Jurassic World Rebirth, I didn't really have any expectations. I didn't really have a love for the franchise that maybe a lot of people had going into this movie. And I actually saw a lot of the reviews before going into it too. And when I say reviews, I mean I saw like review scores. You know, I saw the movie had 50% on Rotten Tomatoes and like a 6 out of 10 on IMDb. And I was like, I'm kind of dreading going into the cinema watching this one. But I came out of it pleasantly surprised. For probably a multitude of reasons, I went into it with a very low bar, so it cleared that, which might not be super impressive given my track record with the series. But then watching this review might be able to give you a different perspective on the movie from someone that's going into it with a pretty much clean slate on the series. So with that disclaimer out of the way, Jurassic World Rebirth is directed by Gareth Edwards and it stars Scarlett Johansson, Mahershala Ali, and Jonathan Bailey. The movie follows their characters Zora Bennett, Duncan Kincaid, and Dr. Henry Loomis as they're sent on an extraction mission to a restricted and uncharted island by Martin Krebs, who's played by Rupert Friend. And on their way there, they run into a stranded family at sea, which bring our two main groups of characters together who are now stranded on a dangerous island filled with mutated dinosaurs. So probably the hot question on everyone's mind is, why did I seemingly like this movie more than most? Well, I am obviously not completely oblivious to what the previous storylines for this franchise have been, and quite clearly they build a park, build it with dinosaurs. Obviously that's going to attract a lot of attention and money, and the park runs stale after a couple of years. They need to kind of reinvigorate a bit of life into it. They fuck around with, dinosaur DNA and create something they shouldn't, and now the park's a mess. It's a storyline that, like, me thinking about it, I think it's so dumb. Like, it's so obvious that is not a good idea to do and not a, smart decision to make. But that's what they do in the pursuit of, getting more tickets sold or whatever. So that is obviously something that's been a big deterrent for me watching this franchise, because I couldn't care less about a dinosaur park. So for me, the whole idea of them moving away from Jurassic World and Jurassic Park and that sort of thing was actually a selling point for me. I couldn't, even as someone that hasn't watched those movies, I couldn't be bothered watching a movie that the plot is just going to be so easily spelled out. I couldn't be bothered. So that is a massive plus for me. So another thing I really liked about the movie kind of falls in line with what the story is all about, which is the whole extraction mission. And the mission kind of involves them hunting down 3 different types of dinosaurs. One of the dinosaurs is a aquatic creature, so they're going to be on the sea for hunting that one. And then another one is like a land-based creature, so obviously they're going to be traversing some cool landscapes while they do that. And then the third type of dinosaur is airbound, so they are going to be up in the air and, trying to get whatever they're trying to get from these dinosaurs in 3 different and very unique locations, which I really enjoyed to see. And for me, it kind of broke up the movie really nicely. And I'll say a lot of the action that you get to see with at least 2 of the dinosaurs is really, really good. There's the land dinosaur that they do meet, and the one that they're hunting and stuff is a bit more of a quiet moment. It's kind of the part in the movie where they take a moment to breathe after a lot of action in the first half and what is more to come in the second half. So the land dinosaur that they do meet and that they're hunting is that kind of time to relax and just, count heads, because there is a lot of kills in this movie from the dinosaurs that I didn't expect for them to be as gruesome as they were. And then especially one of the kills later on is extremely satisfying and extremely gruesome. Now, I do want to get onto some of my dislikes with the movie too, because one of the things that I do really think they could have done better are the characters. Now, I do really like Zora, Dr. Henry Lubins, and Duncan, who's played by the main three actors, Scarlett Johansson, Jonathan Bailey, and Mahershala Ali. I think those characters are probably given the most amount of depth out of all the characters in the movie. They have a bit of a backstory, they have some regrets they're kind of working through, and some things in their past that they might be able to redeem by the end of the movie, which is really cool to kind of learn about and experience through their eyes. I did really enjoy kind of seeing their progression throughout the movie, but in saying that, a lot of the other characters are almost like no-name throwaways. Like, genuinely, they're in about 2 scenes with 2 lines and then they're gone. But one of the things they did with the 2 main characters, Zora and Duncan, that really annoyed me was the fact that they try to give you their sob story way too early on in this movie. Where I think the audience truly bonded with the characters in this movie would have been in the middle, when they're in the midst of their mission and everything, and you're kind of understanding who the good guys and bad guys are in the movie, and who's, you know, on the morally right side and who's not, and who's kind of questioning things and the cogs are turning in their head. That's when you're really kind of bonding with these characters, because you're kind of seeing their behaviors and reactions to certain things happening in the movie. In the first third of the movie, the first act, or whatever you want to call it, that's when you're just kind of getting to know what they are, but not truly who they are. I think who they are is learned more so in the actions that they take during the mission. But to be fair, once you do get to that final act and they have redeemed themselves, it is super satisfying, and I did really enjoy that aspect and I was happy for them. But I just was a little bit annoyed at the ordering of how they tried to play their cards, of you getting to know them and starting to feel sorry for them and that sort of thing. But yeah, like I said, it is super satisfying by the end of it. And then there's this other group of characters, which is a family of 3, a father and his 2 daughters, plus the eldest daughter's boyfriend. And I think that the way that you meet them and their introduction into the movie feels spliced in there at a really weird time. Like, you're building momentum into this mission, and then you kind of pause for a second to meet this new group of people. And to be honest, the introduction didn't sell me on these characters, and they kind of felt super out of place where they were, not just physically in the story, but also just in the script. Like, meeting them felt super awkward, and just all the momentum of the mission just got cut. Without giving too many details away, I think the family's progression in the story is super generic and not really needed. And I honestly feel like if the family wasn't in this movie, it would not have changed the trajectory of the story or the mission or anything else in this movie. Nothing would have changed if the family was taken out. Now, I will admit, I did start to like the family once they kind of got towards the island, or a lot closer to the island that they kind of get stranded on. And there are a few things that happen that kind of bond the boyfriend with the father a lot more, and as well with the youngest daughter too. There are a lot of things to like about them, but their place in the story didn't fit super well, and it didn't have any difference on the outcome or what kind of happened towards the end. Now, those shortcomings aside, I did actually really enjoy Jurassic World Rebirth, and I do think it's a fun popcorn movie to see at the cinemas. And for being the 7th movie in a franchise, I do think it's kind of new person friendly. Like, I don't think you do really need to see the other 6 movies to understand this one. You can kind of just go into it and see it as a standalone film and understand pretty much everything that the movie is telling the audience. Like, it doesn't rely on anything from the past too much. I do understand there are quite a few Easter eggs and nods to the other films in there, but I don't think there are things in there that require a lot more context to understand. Coming from someone that's not a big dinosaur person and is just in it for a good time, I honestly think Jurassic World Rebirth is something I would rewatch. I feel like this whole review is like if someone's never played a FIFA game before and then they review FIFA 25 and they're like, wow, this game is so innovative, but they don't understand that each iteration of FIFA is like the most minuscule update on the game ever. Hopefully that's not what this review is like.